What's going on, everybody? My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for the 5th day of our 12 Days of Christmas special. Now, I realize this one's a little bit late, so in order to make it up for you, I'm going to give you a very special 6th episode that's going to be coming out tomorrow. I'm not going to give the whole surprise away, but I will tell you that it's going to feature one of the brand new factions that is coming out in 0.95. Gameplay you probably haven't seen before, so I think that that's going to be pretty exciting. So I hope you guys tune in for it, but in any case, let's get into our 5th episode. What's going to be happening? Well, let me tell you. In the windswept plains of the frozen north, there are rumblings of battle. Mall Santas everywhere are sharpening their crooks, while legions of Krampus armed with ridiculous foam pitchforks are gathering in numbers greater than ever before. And from the tundras, great herds of reindeer march forth at the call of their despotic red overlord. From Italy, the Papal States have marched forth, the Pope having called a new crusade to retake Christmas from these petty symbols of crass commercialism. And from the east come thousands of Mongols, Turks, and Timurids to... well, that's not really clear. It honestly looks like they took a wrong turn a few continents back on their way to Constantinople, but, anyway, Merry Christmas! Here's the gift of some seriously weird shit, and also some elephants. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, while everyone gets into place, let's take a brief look at the order of battle and check out some of the cool new units. Now, the first Santaland army we have here is being commanded by yours truly. I brought a ton of these ridiculous-looking foot Santas who are backed up by an equally ridiculous number of foot Krampuses. These guys have pitchforks, and they are very good against cavalry. Behind them, I've got some Santaland snowmen. These guys have multiple HP, not a whole lot of attack or defense, though. They're mostly just meat shield units to anchor your line, which is precisely why I brought them. Out of my flanks, got a couple units of mounted Santas, mounted atop Christmas festive reindeer. On the other end, I have another unit of my mounted Santas, backed up by a unit of chosen Santas, who are led by the big fat man himself. There he is, Kris Kringle, the man of the hour. Moving on over to the center, we have another Santaland force under Neffy. Not a whole lot of variation between the Santaland armies. Some mounted Santas over here, some Snowbros, a few units of Krampuses, and some foot Santas as well. And behind he's got a unit of Christmas elves. I don't really know what these guys do. I think they function kind of like Nafatoons, but again, not 100% sure. This is the first game that any of us ever played with this. And behind them he's got a unit of Bombard, crewed by a large number of Krampuses, of course. Now, over on the far right flank, we have the army of cannon fodder. Again, a whole lot of these foot Santas making up his mainline infantry, backed up by some foot Krampuses. He's got a lot more Christmas elves, though, like a ton of these Nafatoons. Look at this. He's really invested heavily into them. I think he's got like 4 or so units of them. So hopefully he gets a lot of value out of them. Behind them, he's got a bunch of units of mounted Santas and some Santa Jugend, who are just very festive-looking, what I assume to be like German or Teutons or something like that, mounted on their barded steeds. We've got a lot of cav on his end, and infantry a little bit thin on the ground. We'll see how well that works against the Mongols. It might be exactly the kind of force that he needs to deal with them. Let's go ahead and let's speed it up, and we'll go over the other players and their armies as we go through. So over here, Santa getting a nice charge into the flank of the Timurid peasants here, this massive blob of reasonably festive-colored foot soldiers being commanded by UMAD Commander, and that flank is going to be pretty well collapsed by a charge from those Santaland forces. Now, over here in the center, this is really gorgeous. It's like a 3-way meetup of different teams. We have the Timurid peasants, who are going to be meeting the Krampuses and the rest of the infantry under Neffy, and at the same time, Pope Fluffy Duck coming in with a unit, or actually several units of his feudal knights. He's going to be playing as the Papal States, and damn, frame rate is going to drop as thousands upon thousands of foot soldiers converge on this area for a little bit of holiday-themed revelry, by which I mean unmitigated slaughter. Over on this end, we can see the Byzantines charging in to Neffy's forces on the flank, trying to overlap this large number of Christmas infantry. But unfortunately, the Christmas line infantry is very strong. Strong enough to beat most of these units. And you can actually see the Byzantine Spear Militia rout almost immediately. I'm not too sure why. I think a lot of these guys cause fear or something like that. That's got to be the case. So the Byzantine Empire under Balin moving in with some of his dismounted Latincon, trying to hold down this center line here, along with Pope Fluffy Duck. Now, this is pretty cool. As the Timurids begin to flee, the Crusaders are going to break ranks and give chase. And they're going to follow them straight up this hill, potentially into a bit of an ambush. You can see that the Timurids here under you, my commander, have a nice firing line set up. It's a bombard that can fire pretty well straight down the hill into those feudal knights and things like that. And of course there are the Timurid elephants lurking in the area. But over on this end, you can see that the front beginning to materialize here around the Byzantine and Crusader armies, and the Latin Con are actually managing to get around on Nefi's right or left flank rather, and begin to outflank him. Over here though, this is where things are looking real ugly. The Byzantines are fighting a little bit of a two-front war. The Varangian Guard being kind of massacred a little bit, except for that guy right there. Did you see him do that like side flip? But the Byzantine Varangian Guard are actually being overlapped and destroyed by the Christmas hordes. And the Byzantine cavalry, for the most part, has suffered quite heavily. Now, my mounted Santas have not done terribly well against the heavily armored cataphracts, and I think Nefi had some cavalry in here as well, and they got driven back with very, very heavy losses. But now things are starting to turn against them. They can see a little bit of reinforcements coming in here in the form of the cataphracti. We're going to have a nice charge here straight into the flank of my mounted Santas, who are not going to stand up very well to that at all. As for my chosen Santas, I think my chosen Santas are... yeah, they're chasing around some of the skirmish cavalry of the Byzantines, which maybe isn't the best use of them, but I think they were pretty quick, so I thought they'd be able to catch up to the Byzantine skirmish cav, or at the very least manage to occupy them for a little bit, because I don't have any skirmishing forces aside from, I think maybe I have a unit of Christmas elves as well. Yeah, you can see them in the back. And I have no idea how to use them, what their capabilities are, so I'm not going to rely on my skirmish forces too much. What I am going to do is break off a unit of my mounted Santas, try and get them away from those cataphracts. Actually, just running through the cataphracts, those guys massacre them. And I think they just routed those cataphracts as well. I see what was happening. The cataphracts were trying to retreat from that engagement, but they ended up getting caught out by my mounted Santas. Now up here you can see some of the Varangian Guard charging down. My mounted Santa's going to countercharge. And that's going to be real ugly for the Varangian Guard. But my mounted Santas are going to suffer quite heavily in return. Now let's pop up to this end and see how the forces of Pope Fluffy Duck are doing. Wow, look at that. Those Swiss Guard were doing extremely well against the elephants, managing to kill quite a number of them. I think they have a bonus versus cavalry, but ultimately the Crusader state's going to find themselves overwhelmed. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Vistak was able to bring that Moorish bodyguard around the flank, terrorize those units, and begin to roll up the line. And of course the Sudanese javelin men here, who are well placed to put a lot of enfilading fire into the Crusader cavalry. And the Crusaders and the Byzantines really are in a rock and a hard place right now. They deployed between basically 5 armies just for the 2 of them to have to deal with, and they are being swiftly overwhelmed. If we look over here, the dismounted feudal knights fighting against the Sabadar militia are actually losing. I think that's because of how outnumbered they are, and I imagine they took quite a significant beating trying to come up that hill. And look at this. Looks like the elephants came in, and I think the elephants might have done a lot of damage to them as well, especially with the skirmish fire that they can put into these guys. Very, very ugly. If we go over to this... oh, what do you know? Oh, no, never mind. I thought that was Crusader State's forces. But if we go over to this end, cannon fodder really struggling. Just not enough infantry. And I think that was actually his general that just went down. And the Santillan forces really rely on their morale. It seems to be that they have quite fragile morale, or well, they have strong morale while the general is up. But once Chris Kringle goes down, these guys really don't have a great time. You can see a lot of wavering right now. So unless a miracle happens here, a Christmas miracle, cannon fodder is going to find himself overwhelmed. I think we might see this army begin to break pretty shortly. Yeah, let's see what we got over here. Looks like the Krampuses are wavering. Yeah, they don't want to stick around for too much longer. The Mongols have suffered quite grievously at the hands of the Santillan forces, but now with that morale shock and with the surround that we have over here, yeah, it looks like we're starting to see some breaking already. Yeah, some fighting to the death, and that's going to be really ugly for cannon fodder. I think we're going to see a mass rout here, and that is going to be it. Christmas is ruined. All of these Santillan forces are going to begin to flee. I think that's going to be basically it for cannon fodder's army, which is going to free up a ton of forces from the Timurids and from the Mongols as well to just converge. Look at this. They've wiped out the forces of Pope Fluffy Duck up there on the hill, and now they're just going to stream down this hill towards my remaining Santillan forces. And I think we've overwhelmed the Byzantines at this point. Nefi still has some of his troops in the fight as well, but the Byzantines here on our right flank have been basically massacred. Spear Militia in the center here, not going to do well against my foot Santas at all. It says the defeat is a certainty, but honestly the foot Santas have a lot of damage, and now that my forces are beginning to overlap them, I think we're going to start to see them waver and break in just a few minutes. Now, we have one thing left to do. I want to go over here and take out this Jesus cart and wipe the forces of the Papal States and Pope Fluffy Duck from the field entirely, and then we need to reform and try and meet this charge from the Moors and the Timurids as they charge down the hill. Over here we have the last stand of the Varangian Guard being overwhelmed by my foot Santas, and one final charge from my snowmen. That's going to be enough to break these guys. Varangian Guard now wavering, and when the Varangian Guard is starting to flee, that's when you know that shit has hit the fan. So we got a mass rout over here. A lot of forces from Pope Fluffy Duck and Balin are now in full retreat. Now this is a bit of an issue. What I'm trying to do is pin down some of this cavalry here from Vislac and get my foot Krampuses in there and try and wipe them out. But unfortunately, what it means is that I'm very, very thinly spread. I've got a lot of forces left. We handily defeated, Neffy and I handily defeated the Byzantines and wiped out the, well, what forces the Papal States could throw at us. But unfortunately, we're a little bit spread out now, trying to deal with the massive numbers that remain to Vislac and his allies. Charge there from the Christian Guard. Oh, that's deadly. Into my foot Krampuses. Foot Krampuses standing up to that real well, and those Christian Guard are going to quickly find themselves overwhelmed if Vislac's not careful. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm actually bringing in some of my Christmas elves. What are they doing? I think they're tossing. Their ammunition at some of their routers. No. I say they're going for the Pavi crossbows. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot, but over here the lines have met between my forces and the forces of Vislac, and the Christian Guard not having a great time right now. If you actually, oh, there goes somebody's general. I think that's the Byzantine general. So the Byzantines have lost their general. But in the center, it's going well for me. The Christian Guard got a little bit, I think, overextended. But over on the right, those elephants came in like a wrecking ball and shattered our right flank. Now, Neffy had lost his general, I think, a little bit earlier in the battle. And I think mine goes down pretty shortly as well. So our morale is very, very feeble. And you can see a mass rout here. A lot of my snowmen, a lot of Neffy's forces as well being caught up in that route, and I think that's my general right there going down. So now my morale is going to be in the tubes. And now with the collapse of that right flank and a ton of holiday infantry, that's going to free up a ton of forces from the Mongols and the Timurids. They're going to be able to come in from the rear, where we are absolutely savaging the Christian Guard of Vislac. Yeah, with the presence of those elephants and a large number of enemy infantry behind our lines, my Santas are going to start to be shaken, and this is where we could see some really ugly stuff begin to happen. Looks like a little bit of routing here. My right flank beginning to collapse even further. Some artillery shots from the heights. I believe that's the Mongol rocket launcher is going to collapse my center, and my left flank is going to follow suit as well. And so hundreds of my festive Christmas infantry are going to be put to flight, and the Mongols and their allies were well placed to take advantage of that. A lot of cavalry in the back lines, and Christmas has indeed been ruined. Many of my forces now in full retreat. Now there's still hope. There's still hope for Christmas at this point. I've got some of my snowmen, a fresh unit of snowmen here reforming alongside my Culverin, and I'm trying to target some of these large blobs of Moorish, Turkish, and Timurid infantry as they run down my poor fleeing troops. Now, in particular, I want to take down the elephants, because I know that there's going to be a general's bodyguard in there somewhere. If I can blow apart that general's bodyguard, then I'll be able to rout most of the Timurid forces. The majority of the infantry does consist of the peasants, so if I can get them to flee all at the same time, I can potentially panic the rest of these forces as well. It's a long shot. It's a real long shot, but hey, gotta try something. Now, over here, it doesn't look like Vislac is really none too pleased with my cannon still being online. So he's bringing in some of his bodyguard, gonna run down my snowmen, and try and harass my poor cannon crew as well as he can. Over here, he's actually got some Christian Guard in there already. Yeah. Pardon me. Yeah, trying to cut those guys down and prevent them from doing their bloody work. Now I'm gonna move my Culverin crew out of there, try and kite those Christian Guard into the waiting arms of the snowmen, so I'm gonna hack them down pretty efficiently. And these Culverin crew, I think they also have a bonus against cavalry, so they're gonna do not too poorly against the Christian Guard. It's gonna be one of them that I think that manages to flee from the field there. But look at this, just across the field, there's a horde, a massive tide of these Eastern infantry pouring forward down from the heights, and my poor snowmen are going to have a really, really bad time. Now, if you look over here, Vislac continuing his campaign of harassment, just trying to keep me on my toes. My Santas aren't very maneuverable, and with this wide front that I'm obliged to present because I don't want him to be able to slip by, and I want to be able to present as wide a front as possible against the oncoming horde so that I'm not surrounded as easily. It makes my poor snowman, I should say, very, very unmaneuverable. Not very maneuverable. That's the one I wanted. And so they're just going to be constantly shifting around in response to Vislak's cavalry. A little bit of cat and mouse game here. My festive troops facing off against these elite bodyguard units, just trying to keep them zoned out for as long as possible. Now there is a possibility that if I land one of my artillery shots directly in the middle of this mob of peasants, that I might be able to collapse their morale and cause them all to flee all at the same time. And combine that with maybe getting a hold of Vislak's general as a possibility. They're very close. I might be able to charge them right now. If I can get in there, kill his general, I might be able to just chain round these guys. We've seen how feeble morale has been in this game. And with a little bit of artillery support, then, you know, maybe. It's a long shot. But you gotta have hope. It is Christmas after all. Bodyguard gonna get the first charge off. Scythe right through my snowmen. Cut down at least half the unit or something horrible like that. And they're gonna be able to push their way into my Culverin, shattering my hopes and my dreams. God damn it, Vislak. Now, with nothing left to lose, my snowmen gonna charge into battle against those Timurids. And the Timurids not having a good time. Actually, those peasants are gonna really suffer, I think, at the hands of my snowmen, who are fresh. They've got their full HP, and they're gonna be able to do a fair amount of damage. They're actually shaken. So maybe there's still a possibility of some routing here, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Especially not with the Moors under Vislak and the Mongols now coming in with a nearly full health unit of Khan's Guard. They're gonna finish off my catapult crew. These poor Krampuses, unable to defend themselves in close quarters against those heavily armored cataphract units. And now the forces of Vislak gonna position themselves on my rear, and my poor little snowman here gonna begin to waver. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit farther here. And that's going to be all she wrote. My snowman are going to break and flee, and I think that's basically it. There might be a unit of Byzantine cavalry still left on the field. Yeah, here they are, under Balin. They're going to be scattered by a charge from those elephants. And thus concludes our Christmas battle. Christmas has been destroyed for all time by the Mongols. They are just why we can't have anything nice. Every time every time we get something we can be proud of, the Mongols come in and they run it over. Very, very unfortunate. And that's going to be an admit defeat from myself, and I believe from Balin as well. And that's going to be the end of our Christmas episode. I hope you guys like this. A little bit silly. My forces did all right. 1,100 kills, that's respectable. Nephi did reasonably well as well. He managed to stick around for quite some time, but cannon fodder really struggled in that uphill charge against the Mongols, who were more than prepared for him. The Christmas units don't have a ton of armor or a lot of ranged units, so they're really at the mercy of a skirmisher faction like the Mongols. Down here, Fluffy Duck did as well as he could have. He had to fight a two-front war against a lot of very powerful armies. Balin's forces again had the same kind of problem. It was their deployment. They got sandwiched in between basically 5 armies and ultimately wiped out. Von Mountain, UMAD Commander, and Vislak all did very well for themselves, with Von Mountain getting the most kills in the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little Christmas special. I'm sorry it was so late, but you'll be getting another one, I believe, probably tomorrow. I might get it out today, but it is going to be really cool. I think, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it's going to be a custom scenario done by Sin of the Dark Cloud that reveals one of the new .95 factions, which I don't think you've seen yet. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. But yeah, without any further ado, go ahead and we'll call it there. I hope you guys enjoyed so far, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.